Hey y'all, my name is Kelsey. I have a master's degree from East Carolina University in English, and I'm a tutor and a teacher, and I am hoping to build this series of videos to help fellow educators learn how to bring games into their classroom. That's something I'm really interested in terms of scholarly research, and I really think that it's something that a lot of teachers aren't fully utilizing well. Um, some teachers are very nervous to start, they don't know where to begin. Others are against the idea of using games in the class on different levels and in different ways. But hopefully, through this series of videos and resources and PowerPoints, I will be able to give some teachers out there some ideas of what they can do to bring games in their classrooms and make it accessible and manageable. So the way this works is here beside me, you're going to see the PowerPoint that I have. Each lesson is a PowerPoint. I'll be able to go through the slides just like, we're in the classroom. And behind me, you see this haunted library, right? This image, this background image. When I have a video game example to show you, it'll be there. And I can make the PowerPoint disappear at those moments and really let you see a big screen of a game example. A big reason that I want to do this is because I love video games. I've done a lot of my graduate coursework has been revolved around game studies and bringing games into the classroom through gamification or through analyzing games or just playing games. Just, how do you bring a card game into the classroom and make it either a learning moment or just use it as a reward or a relaxation moment. How do you do it well and effectively so that students get the most out of it? This series is something I've been wanting to do for a while, probably since my master's degree in 2016, 2017, 2018, around that time, and I just never got the opportunity to put it to fruition. I never sat down and actually did it. But then the pandemic happened and a lot of things changed. The opportunity has presented itself to make this series, so here I am. When you watch these videos on YouTube, you will be able to click in the description box and go and get all of the resources that I've shared. So this PowerPoint will have all kinds of extra sources at the end. Anything that I make as an example to show you, like a worksheet or a sample syllabus, anything like that that I make will be available, and it'll be linked in the description box of this YouTube video. And anything extra that I can't really fit in the description box will always be available in my blog. That will be the first link that you see. So there will always be all kinds of free resources that I link in the description post and in my blog that you'll be welcome to download. My whole point with this is to make games more accessible, more approachable, and help teachers who maybe don't play games or who don't identify as gamers, help them get started and carry them through the process. I know that not everyone is obsessed with video games to, you know, how do I show you? Not everyone is obsessed with Mario and other video games, and not every teacher is a gamer. But you may want to give it a try. And so for me to make these things available for free is what I want to do, what I'm going to stick with. Anything that I make for this series will always be free. These YouTube videos will never disappear from YouTube. They'll always be something you can come back and look at. The PowerPoints will always be available. That's kind of the spiel, the intro, the purpose behind this series. So when we talk about games in the classroom, we usually are talking about two realms, usually. The first, or one of them, is game studies, the study of games, the study of play, the study of cultural practices that surround gaming. And not just video games, board games, card games, tabletop games, Dungeons and Dragons, Uno, Monopoly, any kind of game, any kind of play, hide and seek, all of that can be studied under game studies. And all of it can contribute to the ways that we understand how people learn. Because we do understand that people learn through play from the time they're born throughout our lives. I know, of course, when we grow up, we think we've got to get serious, and life is serious business, and sometimes there's not time for play when we grow up. But there should be, because play is a powerful learning tool, and it's part of how our brains are wired to learn through play. So we really should try to encourage students of all ages, pre-K all the way through college, to engage in forms of play to make learning more fun, more engaging, more enjoyable. And so the other realm that we're mostly talking about here is gamification. If I understand correctly, remember correctly, gamification started in the business world as a way to help employers and supervisors um, help make work tasks more bearable, more manageable, more enjoyable. But gamification is taking elements of play, elements of games, sometimes competitiveness, but not always, and making your tasks more game-like. So anytime that you, for example, if it's children and you give children, say, a series of tasks in the classroom, and they earn points or rewards for completing their tasks, and any time that it's got some kind of challenge to it, you know, this student picks up all the red blocks, and this student needs to pick up all the blue blocks during cleanup, and you make cleanup a game somehow. That's gamification. Parents do that a lot with kids, teachers do it a lot with students. That's just one example. It can become as complex as you want it to be. With gamification, often the idea is that you make some kind of narrative with the game. Your game tells a story. Um, so in a job scenario, it might be that there's an upcoming company event where the company is putting on some grand display of a product they've been working on. And that that display and that product is some culmination of everybody's efforts. And you've told the whole time you've been working on this project, you've developed this narrative about how this product will serve customers, or serve a need, but you've made it a story. You've created this fictional narrative around it, and you position your employees as superheroes that are saving the day because your product solves a problem. Your work tasks were structured in a way that it felt playful and it was like a game, and every time you checked a box of something completed, there was some award or celebration or achievement unlocked. That's gamification, and that's what a lot of companies have tried to do in different ways to make getting those big projects done, or getting the little mundane everyday things that are just boring and miserable and have to be done. You can also use gamification for that, just to make it a little bit less miserable, less tedious. I hate to say it like that, but that's the idea, is that if you've got something that's difficult in some way and you want to make it feel less difficult, building that narrative, building that playfulness, challenges and rewards helps in some ways. Now, of course, with that, you have to have people buy in. And we'll talk about that more in this video and in future videos, but obviously if your students or your employees do not care about this story or these silly little rewards or these challenges, it doesn't work. But when they are interested and it does motivate them, it's wonderful. So that's game studies and gamification. There's pros and there's cons. I'm not going to ignore the cons, and I'm not going to tell you to ignore the cons. I encourage you to use the resources that I provide or do your own research and find out some of these controversies that are involved with games and video games. Most people are no stranger to the idea that people argue that games cause violence and stuff like that. And there's tons and tons of information written on that on both sides. People who agree and people who disagree. And I don't want you to ignore the people that say video games cause violence or that gamers of a certain gender are sexist or are violent towards women or anything like that. I don't want you to ignore any of that because there's grains of truth in all of it. So I encourage you to get informed about it so that when you try to bring this stuff into your classroom, you can have conversations with parents or supervisors who are concerned. Learn about those controversies and understand both sides or all sides and decide where you stand and let that help you when you decide to try games in your classroom. And if you read enough into it and you decide, hey, listen, I'm not even gonna bother because there's too much controversy, there's too many concerns. That's totally fair. I will not fault you if you do that because there can be a lot of it can be difficult to explain to parents or supervisors who don't buy in, who don't follow, who are not interested. So keep that in mind. There can definitely be accessibility issues and tech issues. Um, Obviously, not everybody can bring a game with a controller into their classroom because you just don't have one and you don't have enough for all your students to share. And maybe you've got a student with fine motor issues and they can't even hold a controller. Or you've got a student who is blind and cannot see the screen. Or a student who is deaf and who cannot hear the game. And plenty of games have decent captions, but not great. Many games are not, unfortunately, not made all that accessible. Dedicated people who are not a part of those game companies have to go and put in a lot of effort and do a lot of work to make games work for them and other people who have accessibility needs through whatever various disabilities it might be. Games are getting better little by little. For example, in a lot of games that rely on color coding for important elements of the game, more and more games are having options for people who are colorblind, but not all of them. So it's just like pretty much every other area of life where more and more people are starting to have conversations about accessibility and disabilities and making things more accessible for different needs. Games are also slowly working their way towards being better, but they're not perfect. Of course, no one's going to ask a teacher to buy a class set of Nintendo Switches to bring into their classroom. And no school is probably ever going to agree to paying for that either. But what you can do is if you or a loved one has one Nintendo Switch and you really want to show your students the experience of playing on a Nintendo Switch in your classroom, you bring one, you connect it to your projector, and you show the class. And you let students take turns, possibly depending on their age and behavior, but you'll know your students, so you'll decide that. And you show that on the projector. So I've thought a lot about accessibility with games in the classroom, and that's a big area that I'm interested in helping teachers problem solve and come up with solutions. So if that area interests you, I definitely want to do more on that in the future. Like I was just saying, you know your students, you know how they're going to act. Age is a factor. You may know very well before you even think about bringing games into the classroom. You may know that your class is rowdy and rambunctious and difficult to reel in when they get really, really amped up. You love to see them excited about learning and happy and safe and healthy and full of joy and excitement. But you know that sometimes reeling in 20 to 30 students of any age is a task. So you may decide bringing in physical games and actually playing games, whether it's a video game or a card game or a board game or Pictionary, you may know that that may not be an option. And if you're not sure, your students will clearly reveal it to you as the school year or the semester goes on, especially once you try something like bringing in games or watching a movie or doing anything that's new for your class. They will show you who they are, um, and you'll figure it out. You'll play it by ear. On the other hand, you're going to have some students who have no interest in buying in at all. They do not care about games. They are not gamers. They are serious students who have serious work to do, and they don't have any time to deal with humoring you while you try to have fun. And those people exist in all ages, all schools, all grade levels. There is some convincing involved with these students. There is some powers of persuasion and rhetoric that you may have to employ to get these students to at least humor you. On the other hand, there's some benefits. Obviously, if there weren't, I wouldn't be making this video. It's fun, it's engaging, it's very current. Um, if you bring in a video game example or start talking about games, talking about people who play games on YouTube or Twitch, you're very quickly going to learn your students who love to game. You're going to learn what games they love, the YouTubers they love to watch, the Twitch streamers they love to watch. Uh, you are going to connect with those students immediately. They are going to light up and be happy to talk to you about what they like. It's also obviously going to encourage digital literacy and multimodal literacy. This next bullet here, number 3, from James Paul G. He's written What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy. Games teach us tons about learning and literacy. And when you use this device or a gaming computer or even just a cell phone to play a mobile game like Candy Crush or a puzzle game or any of the other very popular mobile games that your students will know, like Granny, Five Nights at Freddy's, Roblox. You are learning how to use these technological devices and are often going to have stronger digital literacy skills because of that. There is a learning curve with understanding how to use a game console or how to use a gaming computer or how to play games on your phone. And obviously, not everybody knows how. So, when you've got a student who's figured it out, you know that they've got the digital literacy skills to do a lot with their computer, with their tablet, their devices that they use at school. Like I was saying, as soon as you start bringing up games, you're going to have those students who light up and they know exactly the games that they want to tell you about, the gamers that they want to tell you about. And you're going to have students who don't. So one thing I encourage you to do is when you're ready to start talking about games and introducing the idea of playing some games or discussing games academically with your students, I encourage you to involve them in the decision-making process. They know what they like. So learning what they are interested in is going to make your life so much easier as an instructor. Bringing in things or talking about things that they are already familiar with saves you a lot of time and effort. You don't have to introduce them to new games that they've never heard of necessarily. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to figure out, gosh, what game am I going to talk about? I have no clue. There's thousands upon thousands of games. Where do I start? Let your students tell you where to start based on what they like. And then once you give it a try, once you've talked about games in an academic way, or you've played games, or you've gamified a lesson, ask them if they enjoyed it, consult them. See if they liked it or not, what worked and what didn't work. Even very young students can answer this for you if you know how to ask them. And I'm sure if you teach very young children, you know how to ask them what they like or don't like about what you're doing in class. On the other hand, please don't tell them that being a game developer, making games, streaming as a gamer, as a YouTuber, playing games for a living, esports, please don't tell them that things like that aren't real jobs. They are, and I'm going to leave it at that. Um, Even if it's not something you really understand, don't dismiss all of the knowledge and effort and time and skills that are required for these careers just because you don't understand them. That is unfortunately something that I've witnessed a lot in my time studying games, playing games, watching people play games. People still think it's just a silly little hobby for a certain kind of person, and they have this stereotype in mind, and they think it's just something for lazy people to do who don't do anything else. And anytime that you discourage or dismiss things like that, it discourages your students. It dismisses your students' hobbies and interests. And it's just not a good move as a teacher. If I have to explain why, I don't even know if I could explain why we should not discourage students. I don't think I could even begin to come up with the words. And I'm an English major, I can come up with words all day. So please, don't discourage, don't be dismissive. Take some time to learn about YouTube and being a YouTuber and streaming and esports and game development, and people who make a living playing video games. And it's more than just playing on YouTube. There are people who beta test, who do quality control before games are published. They literally make a living playing games, but in a completely different way than someone on YouTube like Markiplier makes a living playing games. Another thing not to do is don't tell them you're playing a game and then just do an assessment with a little pizzazz. A part of this series, I'm going to explain, gamifying things and creating this narrative and putting fun words and terminology on what you're doing as a starting point, gamification. But don't just say you're playing a game when what you're actually doing is gamifying a quiz or gamifying assessment or gamifying review. Your students are going to quickly realize that you're not just playing a game. They're going to key in immediately and they're going to be disappointed. So be transparent and specific when you're using things like gamification. And if you are playing Jeopardy as a review or you are playing Kahoot as a review, say that. Say, hey, we're playing Jeopardy as a review for multiplication, as a review for the American history quiz that we're going to have tomorrow, as a review for the vocabulary quiz we're having Friday, or whatever it may be. Be transparent, be clear, so that they know that there's learning involved. Because when you say play a game, even though I've already said that games teach us a lot, even when we are playing, when you say play a game, they think that that means they get to check out mentally and relax something like this, or something like cards, something like a puzzle. So when you say play a game, but then they don't get to be mentally checked out and they have to do real work, they're going to be disappointed. So try to be transparent and specific, especially when you get started, so you don't misconstrue what you're doing and then get grumpy students who thought they were going to get to play charades, but instead they're reviewing the presidents of the United States. Obviously, don't ignore their concerns or reactions if they don't seem engaged or aren't enjoying this new thing you're trying. Pay attention to how they react and be flexible. You obviously don't have to throw away a whole new activity that you're doing, that you're trying, if people aren't engaged or enjoying themselves. You don't have to throw it away, but be flexible and try something different the next time. Your three main areas of games in the classroom. Just playing games, straight up playing a game that already exists on a device, or a card game, or a board game, or chess, or charades, or Pictionary, or Monopoly, Jeopardy, hide and go seek, tag, just playing a game. Straightforward. Treating games as texts is your second one. So games as texts is analyzing games the way we would analyze a film or a book, because games are rich with stories. So that's kind of my favorite area to focus on, but I'll cover all three in this video series. And then gamification. I've already talked about gamification a bit, and this video will go a bit more in depth on gamification. And future videos will too. Future videos will talk more about games as text. I might do one whole video on playing games, or I might just sprinkle it in here and there. It's pretty straightforward. Bring in what you've got, and you play. With any one of these things that you're going to try, start small, okay? Pick one or two games to familiarize yourself with. Obviously, I'm very, very familiar with a very specific game. Um, I'm maybe what you might call obsessed with it a little bit, maybe a little bit. Am I obsessed? I don't know. But I like Mario games a lot. But there's tons of other games that I love. My master's final project, instead of a thesis, I did a project. It was pretty much all about Skyrim. I love that game to pieces. And there's not enough time in the world for me to familiarize myself with all the games that I would like to know about. But I do my best to learn about as many as I can. But you don't have to do that. Pick one or two. Either that your students have told you about, or that I tell you about, or that you find on your own. And maybe that goes without saying for some people, but I am the type of person who gets excited and just wants to dive in and transform everything and try everything new at once and have my hands in every cookie jar at once. And that's a surefire way to get yourself overwhelmed and burnt out. So start small. And starting small helps you better assess what students do like and don't like, and what works and doesn't work in the classroom. So when you're playing games, just any kind of game, your main three reasons or purposes is to let students relax as a reward or as a review. You know, you might legitimately just play Jeopardy, or what's another one? Kahoot. I guess Kahoot. You could call Kahoot an option. Or whatever other games you come up with. Trivial Pursuit, Brain Quest. Those are mostly to just review material that you've learned. But often you're going to have very different experiences when you're playing games to review versus when it's to relax or as a reward. As a relaxation or reward moment, that's when you're playing checkers or chess or Pictionary and you're letting students check out mentally from what they're learning. And it's the opposite with review. Review, you're playing a game to have fun while staying checked in mentally. But that's the gist of it. So keep that in mind when you're picking games, when you're looking on Pinterest or Teachers Pay Teachers or blogs or anywhere else that you look for ideas on games to just to play games. Keep in mind your purpose. Are we doing this for review, reward, or relaxation? And let that purpose guide the games you choose. And you're good to go. When you're analyzing games or treating games as texts, text being the thing you analyze, you're looking at the stories that games tell, the narratives that they build. Games of all kinds tell stories and have a wealth of imagery and references and allusions and plot devices and everything else that you might want to analyze in a literature class or a film class or a critical thinking class or social studies or history or science, whatever subject you're wanting to analyze something in. You could find a game that would go perfectly with that subject. There's so much science and science fiction and history and folklore and fairy tales and everything you can imagine in the stories of games. You can apply just about any and every literary or film analysis principle and theory to games. And you do often want to combine them because you've got the narrative element and you've got the visual element of the game. So you've got students looking at a scene in Mario, for example, and there's narrative on the screen. There's words on the screen that say what's happening. Bowser has kidnapped the princess and Mario is off to rescue her. Oh, wait a minute, what's that? That's a hero's journey. And there's something to be said about a feminist reading of that trope in heroes' journeys of the damsel in distress. And what does this screen look like, with Mario on it? What does Mario look like? What does Bowser look like? What does the Mushroom Kingdom behind you look like, or behind them look like? How is it framed? Where's the camera? Who are we, the audience? Where are we positioned? What are we being told to look at and pay attention to? Combining those literary and film theories lets you see the whole picture of a game. Whereas just using one or the other leaves out half of what the game has to offer. When you're analyzing games as text, obviously you want to see the game in front of you. But like we've said, you can't always bring a game into the classroom with you to play and put on the screen. How do you show your students a game when you can't bring a game into the classroom and play it with your students? What do you do? It's not like it's not as widespread or as accepted or as easy as everyone having a book in front of them or putting a movie on the TV or the projector. What do you do? I've mentioned already, but there are people who make a living playing video games. It's super cool. It's amazing. And it is an extensive resource that I encourage teachers to utilize when they want to do this work of using games as texts. So I'm going to show you an example today of a YouTuber and show you what it's like when you go to YouTube and look at their channel and watch them play games. Because I know that some teachers are going to be completely unfamiliar with this idea. I've brought up the YouTube page of Oshikorosu. Oshikorosu, who we call Oshi in his community, is a YouTuber and Twitch streamer who plays games. A part of the experience of watching someone else play the game For me personally, is I often watch games that I can't afford myself, or games that I know that I don't have time to play, but I'm interested in learning about. People often think it's weird and strange that you watch other people play games, but my retort is you watch other people play football, you watch other people play soccer, you watch other people run in a marathon or race NASCAR or play cards, poker. It's entertainment. It's sometimes it is something you can do, and sometimes it's something you could never do in your life, and you're enjoying it vicariously through this person or through this team or this other person. So to me, it's the same thing. It's no different. So when we look at Oshi's YouTube channel, we see all these videos, hundreds of videos, I want to say. Oshi has both live streamed videos, like this one he did today, live Super Mario Maker 2, streamed 2 days ago. But he also records videos that are pre-recorded, not live broadcasts, that you can watch. And he's got tons and tons of games, different games in that are often organized in playlists, and that you can see what he's played. You can pick a game. You don't have to just go and say, well, the most recent thing Oshi played was this. I guess we have to watch this. No. Scroll through and find something. You have adult students and you're teaching a class on horror, and you want to connect Frankenstein to Outlast, the game. Boom. There's Outlast. You can watch Oshi play Outlast. Not safe for work, obviously. Or you've read a book that's just heart-wrenching, some, true story that's just heartbreaking and devastating, and students are feeling lots of big, powerful emotions, and you want them to unpack and analyze how this reaction of, reading something that's heartbreaking, what it does to us, and what it means to feel that empathy and compassion. You might watch Oshi play a game called Before Your Eyes. Let me find it. Oshi has a very strong reaction to this game. Here we go. Before Your Eyes. He said, in the title, I cried like a child. Hey, editing, Kelsey here, coming to you the next day. At this segment of the video, the audio cut out, and what I said was lost, so I'm repeating it for you after we watch this little clip of Oshi.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. So tonight we're going to be playing something a little bit different. We're live streaming this for a live stream audience. I have the chat in the window there. You guys can see it. However, we are going to be playing a game called Before Your Eyes. Now, this was gifted to me by Nero, who said, hey man, I'd really like to see your reactions to playing this game. It's apparently quite an adventure. It's a narrative story game where our choices matter, but it's also apparently very emotional. So if you guys have any experience with me here on YouTube, you guys know that I've played games like this before, and I am a very emotional person. So we're gonna start our day off with a good old G Fuel, and then we're gonna get hopping into this game here. So Before Your Eyes, let's dive right into this. So we're just gonna start a new game. So basically, this game is all about. I don't actually know what it is. Oh wait, it's actually okay. Wait, we have to do some setup here before we start. Okay.
Oshi tells us right off the bat that what he knows about the game is that it's very emotional, and he knows very well that he's an emotional person when it comes to playing games like this. And as he goes on to play the game, obviously what happens unfolds, and you'll see it if you watch it with your students. I think it's important to remind teachers that the commentary that comes with the gamer, like Oshi or whoever's playing the game, is a valuable asset as well. Having him muted, like I've done now, and not listening is to no one's benefit, really. Just like when you're watching or listening to the director's commentary of a movie, or you're reading an afterword or a forward or an introduction to a book written by the author or someone significant who's read it, um, it adds an extra layer of richness to the discussion, and it serves as an amazing starting point for your discussion. And you see this glimpse into how other people, including the creators, or sometimes the creators, feel about the work. So let these gamers do that for you. Um, they are absolutely experts at the games that they play. Um, they some of them are just doing it as a hobby, some are making a living, but they have thousands and thousands of hours in the games they play. I'm going to show you a game that Oshi plays and how many hours he's played it in just a second here. But don't dismiss their commentary as insignificant. This field of this genre of let's plays and playing games for other people to see. So as I was saying, these folks, they've done groundbreaking work. They're experts in the field. This field, this genre of let's plays didn't exist 15 years ago. And some of the most prominent people who we can identify that are famous for it now started about 10 years ago. That's when they got started, and they obviously weren't famous then. But yeah, they people that are interested in doing let's plays and who make a living either just playing games for entertainment or playing games in a way where they teach viewers about the game, how to play the game well, or talk about the stories, talk about the content. Because there's definitely people that do that. There's people that analyze games and share knowledge about the games and an analysis of them in their videos. But they put in so many hours. And I'm going to show you Oshi's profile on Nintendo Switch just to give you an idea on some of the games he plays. One game that he plays a lot is Super Mario Maker 2, and he also plays Super Mario Maker 1. It's the content that gets the most views, the most audience members for him, and you very regularly have new folks coming in who are shocked. They see him playing the most difficult setting of the game, super expert, and they see the things that he can do, and they're surprised, they're shocked. But he explains that there's not some secret trick. It's not a magical talent. It's practice. It's hard work. Thousands of hours of work. Super Mario Maker 2 played for 3,380 hours or more. So that's a lot of hours. Super Smash Bros. Played for 950 hours or more. Monster Hunter Rise played for 240 hours or more. Pokemon Sword played for 145 hours or more. Super Mario Odyssey played for 95 hours or more. Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe played for 360 hours or more. That's a lot. But Mario Maker number 2 is almost 4,000 hours. That's not including the hundreds and hundreds of hours he played Mario Maker 1 on the Wii U. So Oshi has a lot to offer when he's playing this game and he's giving commentary. He's got a lot to offer with any game. He's not just playing it silently. He's experiencing the game and he's analyzing the game as he plays. That's what a lot of players do. We notice things, we have reactions, and the commentary can totally enrich your conversation with students and make it a full learning experience. When Oshi says something, let that be a starting point for your conversation. Oh, Oshi said blank, blank, blank. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What does that mean to you? And let students quote the gamer. teach them how to cite a YouTube video in MLA or APA or whatever citation style you use, and let them quote that commentary in a paper. So definitely don't ignore the commentary. Don't do what I'm doing here with Oshi on mute. But yeah, if you ignore that, I feel like it's definitely a disservice to your students. Have I not been recording this whole time? Anyway, it's a disservice to your students if you ignore that part. Um, Ignore the fact that YouTube is the platform that you're using. You miss out on so many extra teaching moments. So definitely use it to the full potential. So that's Oshi. Um, we're going to keep looking at Oshi again in a minute for another example, but that's what I wanted to show you for games as text, is this gameplay before your eyes. So when it comes to the next area of, of games in the classroom, gamification, there is potentially the most available out there on this subject from teachers, from scholars, from businesses. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of ideas out there. Like I've said before, it kind of boils down to creating this storytelling experience, this narrative that creates meaning for the work that you're doing. It's often used to take emphasis away from grading and grading anxiety and putting emphasis back on skills-based learning and project-based learning and task-based learning. So you might use things like a badge system, quests, missions, very role-playing game, D&D, interactive story sort of things. A great way to start with that is to use a game that people are familiar with. Use a narrative that people are familiar with. So you might use something like the idea of the narrative of Mario, where your friends have been kidnapped by a bad guy and you need to overcome these obstacles to rescue them. The hero's journey. So you might gamify assignments by having students follow that narrative in an assignment. Let me show you an example that I've created. So in this example worksheet I've used Canva to help make some fun images that are inspired by the Nintendo Switch and by Mario. But I've created this little narrative where students are answering questions as challenges from the bad guys, and they need to overcome these simpler or smaller or shorter challenges a couple of times before they deal with the biggest challenge, the greatest challenge, the most high stakes challenge from the Evil King, right? So I've created this little worksheet that's Mario inspired, not copied, but obviously I've got a little bomb guy and a little ghost guy and a little piranha plant type creature. No copyright infringement intended. I've created this little narrative, and in something like this, you might have students compete against each other, race against each other while they're answering these questions. Or maybe they're not competing against each other, but they are competing to see who defeats the Evil King first. So our instructions here say, embark on a journey to rescue your friends. Defeat or avoid enemies and obstacles by correctly answering the following questions. Use power-ups from the mystery blocks to help you or slow down your classmates. In the end, can you beat the Evil King and save the kingdom? The first student or team to save the Mushroom Kingdom wins. You have challenges from the plant. You have challenges from the ghost, challenges from the bomb, and the Evil King's challenges. And you make these questions whatever you want them to be. But you have a little box filled with mystery items that students can grab out of the box that either help them or hurt them or do nothing along their journey. You get a mushroom, it does something. You get a star, it does something. You get a banana peel, it does something. A coin, a poison mushroom. a dinosaur egg. You make the game kind of like a Mario experience, Mario Kart, Mario Party, or regular Mario Bros. And students get to grab an item and use it. And either it helps them move forward or prevents a classmate or a team, another team, if you put students in teams, from moving forward or pushes them back. Or maybe it's a coin like this one. It does nothing. It's just coins that make a nice cha-ching sound. It does nothing. Because often in Mario Kart, the coins do nothing. But most of your students, and probably you, are also familiar with these this Mario narrative. But if you're not, so you find something that Oshi or any other YouTuber has played that's a Mario game, and you familiarize yourself with how it works. It's a resource for you as much as it is a resource for your students.
Here's the star. Oh, don't worry, I'll collect coins.
And so you can watch Oshi play this game and see how it works and see how you collect those items. So that's the gist of it. You're definitely, find YouTubers who are making content that you like, or find games that you like and utilize that YouTube resource. And obviously vet it before you show it to students. Um, Sometimes there is profanity, sometimes games are not appropriate for all ages. So just make sure that whatever you're interested in showing students, you look at ahead of time. And just know your timestamps. If there's a segment of that YouTuber, a segment of that game that's perfect, but the whole video is not exactly appropriate for your class, just show that segment. There's nothing wrong with that. Use that resource to help make your gamified experience, whether it's one lesson, one activity, one class period. Use that to help you. You do not have to go into this without knowing what you're doing. That's the point of the series, and that's a great way to use that YouTube content. And that's not totally a shameless plug of Oshi. It is a little bit, because I love Oshi. But there's tons and tons and tons of people out there putting out game content that you can use on YouTube for free, on Twitch for free. You do not have to subscribe to either one of those in a paid way to watch what's on YouTube or Twitch. There are paid options, but you do not have to pay to see the show, which is a great thing. It's a free resource. And so the other thing I want to emphasize with gamifying, whether you're using an established game like the Mario narrative or coming up with your own narrative like pirates or treasure hunting or spies or whatever else you may choose. Cowboys is popular, spies are popular, pirates are popular, adventuring, Indiana Jones type themes. Whatever theme you use, whatever narrative you choose, having a set of rules is crucial. All games have rules, and when people don't follow the rules, the game is no longer fun or fair. So making sure that your students understand the rules ahead of time is crucial, and sticking with your rules is crucial. Don't neglect that part of your gamification process, even if it's just one little activity, or one lesson or one day. Don't skip on the rules. So if you like this example that I'm showing that I've created with Canva for free, it's going to be available on my blog. Um, like I've said, it's linked in the description box. And I've got this page on there for instructors. It explains how to use Canva for free, and it gives you these links to these elements I've made. The game console, the mystery block, the stationary sheet, which is this, um, the item cards, the enemies. And you can click these links and go right into Canva and edit them and make them your own. So feel free to do that. Make these your own. They're free for you to use. I've made them as an example. So they're not perfect. But if you like them, feel free to use them. If you like them but want them to be a little different, feel free to edit them. So that's the gist of it. But I definitely hope to do more in the future. I'm really excited about this. I really think I have a lot to share that I hope will be useful. So please stay tuned if this has been useful. Please let me know in the comments if there's things you'd like to know about, things you'd like to see. And I'd be happy to incorporate your ideas into this series of videos. So here on the PowerPoint, I've got several slides worth of further resources. Those will also be available. This whole PowerPoint and the blog and everything you've seen in this video will be available for free in the description box below. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Again, if you have any questions or comments or ideas, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Bye.